a lot of these elections were very close. And I'm wondering how much of an impact people who died from COVID has had on these races. I'm talking about specifically the close races. Well, now we have a little more data to kind of decipher whether or not Republicans who died of COVID had an impact on some of these close midterm races. So the National Bureau of Economic Research has conducted a study titled "Excess Death Rates for Republicans and Democrats During the COVID-19 Pandemic." And in it, we learned that unfortunately, there were far more Republican deaths than was necessary. In fact, because of the misinformation regarding vaccines, many Republican voters decided not to get vaccinated, and as a result, far more of them died compared to Democratic voters. In 2018, according to the study, and the early parts of 2020, excess death rates for Republicans and Democrats are similar and centered around 0. Both groups experienced a similar large spike in excess deaths in the winter of 2020 to 2021. However, in the summer of 2021, after vaccines were widely available, the Republican excess death rate rose to nearly double that of Democrats. And this gap widened further in the winter of 2021. So some person on Twitter tweeted to me to say, yeah, well, I mean, maybe there are more Republicans that died because they didn't get vaccinated, but pretty soon there's gonna be a lot more Democrat deaths because of the vaccine. Except, no, that's not gonna happen. And it actually pains me. I don't feel good about the fact that there were people in this country, our fellow Americans, who were intentionally misled, and they died as a result of that. It makes me sick to my stomach. But let me continue with this study. This gap widened further in 2021, according to the study's authors. This rose to a 153% difference after all adults could take the vaccine in Florida and Ohio. And the gap in excess death rates between Republicans and Democrats is concentrated in counties with low vaccination rates, if that wasn't clear already. Jason Schwartz, who's one of the authors of this study and also teaches at Yale, says if Republicans are dying in increased numbers relative to their Democratic colleagues in a political climate where there are so many close electoral contests, could that have been the decider in a particular race? Our study can't answer that, but it certainly seems plausible given just how stark the differences in vaccination rates have been among Democrats and Republicans. So to be clear, their study did not analyze how much of a difference this made in close races. But I do want to kind of turn to something that caught my attention. So first, there are some limitations to this study. Because of the data available, they mostly focused on Ohio and Florida. Okay, so and Ohio and Florida might not be representative of all these other states. So that's a limitation to the study that you should be aware of. But nonetheless, I mean, when you think about it, let's go to Arizona, okay? The gubernatorial race in Arizona between Republican Trump pick, Kari Lake, and the Secretary of State and Democratic candidate, Katie Hobbs. Hobbs won, but she didn't win by much, okay? So that's the outcome of that gubernatorial race in Arizona. It's a difference of about 17,209 votes. There's been a total of 31,613 COVID deaths in Arizona. So could that have had an impact? Maybe, I don't know for sure. And obviously, not all of those deaths are attributed to Democratic voters or Republican voters. We don't know the breakdown in political identity. We do know that more Republicans unfortunately died because of the misinformation they were fed by vaccine deniers and such. But I mean, could that have made a difference in Arizona? Maybe. And maybe it's a bad idea to, discourage your base to protect themselves in the middle of a pandemic when you're gonna need their support. And I don't know if Republicans Republican politicians namely, or members of the media have really learned anything from that. I mean, and also like the whole focus of this conversation is pretty crude and terrible, right? Because you shouldn't want anyone to needlessly die. Like that should be the #1 driver and motivation for the Republican Party. What can we do to protect as many people, regardless of their political affiliation, protect as many people as possible so they don't have to die early, so they can live long, thriving lives? No, but instead, for some reason, they thought it would be, politically beneficial to share misinformation with their own voters and supporters, knowing full well that they were lying about the vaccines and its efficacy. And twice as many Republicans, according to this study, died compared to Democrats. Incredible. It really is incredible stuff. So I'm sure there's gonna be even more analysis on this, even more studies, but a lot of these races were super close. And honestly, the number of COVID deaths could have made some difference. Again, we don't know for sure, but it's just something to keep in mind.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.